We spent a couple of days in Lima after I got real sick, and then we continued on south to a town called Pisco. Pisco is kind of famous for, I believe, being the place where they started Pisco the liquor, which is kind of like a grappa or a brandy, I think.
Yeah, it was like a brandy.
And there's a big thing between Chile and Peru about who started Pisco, who came up with Pisco. From Pisco, it was south on more windy, dry Peruvian coastal highway. We reached Nasca in the late afternoon.
Oh yeah, with the lines.
Yes, Nasca is famous for the Nasca lines, which are these geoglyphs, and there's a lot of dispute over how they have come to be. Yeah. Some people say aliens, some people say that it was, you know, the ancient civilizations.
Yeah, they were all different shapes. Yeah, some of them were animals or
spaceships, just weird things. We did not take an airplane up to see them, partly because of the expense, partly because, mostly because my dad and I had done it a few years ago, and I just got outrageously sick on the little airplane. You know, as it's doing circles and banking hard so you can see down. So I was not going to do that again.
No, but we did climb up that hill so that you could see a little bit of the lines. After
Nasca, it was east into the mountains. This was where it really started getting beautiful again. We got away from the kind of windy, dusty flatness and into some nice curves, into some mountain scenery, and just had a great ride as we ascended. We spent the night in a town called Cahuanca, which is along the mountain highway. And the next morning, we tried our hand at fishing.
Oh yeah, this is our second time we fished.
Yeah, a few times, and we had no luck.
No,
at all.
And the water looked so nice. I thought there was gonna be so many fish.
It was beautiful. It was cold. It was fast moving. It was like the perfect kind of river for trout. But no bites, nothing.
I tried like 4 different types of bait, didn't get anything.
So it's very suspicious that maybe there weren't any fish.
Yeah.
We reached Cusco in the late afternoon. Cusco is a really beautiful colonial city, but it is really hard to get into and hard to get out of the historic downtown.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of a little bit set off from the rest of like more modern, I guess, Cusco, but it was really hard with all the one-way roads and twisting up in the hill, and so really hard to kind of find your way in. Once we did, beautiful Plaza de Armas. Beautiful, you know, colonial houses and kind of colonial architecture. Just lovely to ride through it.
So while we were in Cusco, I decided to go and do Machu Picchu. I realized that there's no way that I could pass through without actually going to see it, even though I really wasn't so enthusiastic about going. So we booked a day tour, and I left around 5 in the morning. It took about 4 hours to get there. And then, yeah, I got to join a tour, and at the first viewing point, I just thought, I think that's enough for me, but the tour still had another 3 hours. So I went through and I learned about all the history and about everything, about how they built the different structures and about what happened to the structures, and yeah, so it was long. And then I spent another 3 hours at a cafe waiting for my train to come. And then I got back around 11 o'clock.
While Jess went to Machu Picchu, I took a day to ride around the Sacred Valley, the Valle Sagrado. And just had a nice time kind of riding, you know, seeing the little towns, and followed a few mountain trails that kind of led me into some nice views, and just had a nice ride around.
Nice.
While we were in Cusco, there were some demonstrations going on. There were 2 issues that the Cusqueños were demonstrating about. One, and probably the lesser of the 2, was their desire for an international airport. The land has been identified, they've even started some construction, but apparently the Ministry of Transportation is dragging their feet. Meanwhile, ministers and sub-ministers are getting raises on their pay. The second issue, which is affecting the whole region of Cusco, is gas mining, natural gas. So there are natural gas deposits in Cusco, but they do not feel that they are getting kind of the money from the gas or access to the gas, because it's all being transported to Lima and then exported. So this is something that's affecting Cusco and all of the surrounding towns. We left Cusco on the main highway going kind of south east, but even that highway to get out of Cusco was cut. And when we got to one point, we saw demonstrators throwing rocks at some cars. So we turned back and we kind of swept around and did a bit of a detour of the town through some dirt and muddy roads.
Yeah, there was all construction. Yeah.
But finally made our way out of Cusco. It was smooth going for a little while, and then we started seeing lots of rocks and debris in the highway, just in the middle of nowhere, as well as lots of roadblocks when we came to each of the little towns.
So sometimes we even had to just ride through the roadblocks. Some of them we waited for, and then some they let us through. Others we had to just ride right through. So there was one that had a bunch of wooden sticks, like quite thick ones, laid across the bridge, and
they were thicker than sticks. These were poles. These were large branches.
Fine, large branches.
Sounds like little twigs. These were not sticks.
Fine, they were branches that were across the bridge, and that was the only way that you could cross over. And then we met some policemen who said, yeah, they'll let you pass, and the demonstrators like showed us a little area that we could go through, and it was just like on the edge of those branches. So he started going, and he like was able to rev and get over the first one, and then he had to slide back a little, then slowly he got over them all, and then just as he was coming out of it, his back tire hit a big piece of brick, and whoop, and he just wiped out.
So that was a little embarrassing, of course, because
it was in front of everyone.
Everybody was there. The whole town was out at this roadblock, and here's this gringo on his, big, nice motorbike. But I got the bike up, got out of the way, and of course all the police helped Jess walk Jess's bike
in the
right
meantime,
through.
I was like watching Greg and taking care of his bike and making sure he was okay, and I had left my bike behind, and I didn't lock the handlebars, so they decided to just roll it. So they rolled it over the things, and then it made it just fine.
Other times, we had to actually ride around the roadblocks, meaning we had to ride around the towns themselves. And this kind of led us on some neat dirt roads through farms and past cows and
in the mud.
And through mud and puddles and just kind of a little bit of an adventure. Our destination was Sicuani, because at Sicuani we were going to come off the main highway and take an alternate route down to Espinar. But at Sicuani, they were actually burning tires. It was a huge demonstration. And when we got there, they were just finishing up with their marching, and
it was just starting to rain.
Yeah, the police were just starting to be able to clear the tires and everything, the burning tires. So we kind of decided that we were going to stay on the main highway for the rest of the day. As we continued south from Sicuani, there were more debris in the road, more roadblocks. At one point, we met a nice guy named Steven, who was on his own motorcycle, a Yamaha. He was coming from Botswana, but was originally from Wisconsin. One of these kind of old Peace Corps types that, it just stays in the blood. So he was kind of a neat guy to meet, and we shared a trout lunch with him. It makes me wonder, because it was local trout, why we weren't able to catch any the few days before. There were a few more roadblocks to get through before we were out of the Cusco region. At one of them, we actually had to go around the town. It was another lovely dirt road. But at the end of it, I got chased by a dog.
Oh yeah, it was like a husky or something, and he came up beside you.
And my attention was focused on the dog, and so I wasn't looking forward to see that there was a chain that was pulled kind of across that road, and I basically got clotheslined. I turned back just soon enough to duck my head, and the bike went down.
Yeah.
And the clothesline, the chain, knocked the GoPro off.
Yeah,
my
it must
helmet.
have just gotten you here and it knocked it off.
Yeah, it broke the mount for the GoPro. But fortunately, other than, a little fall on the bike, I was fine.
I know, I was so worried that you had hurt your neck. I had seen you, your neck just like pushed over.
Yeah, almost got decapitated on that one.
And the dog just ran away.
And the dog lost complete interest as soon as I went down. So we reached Ayaviri that evening, and Ayaviri is this lovely mountain town. The kind of town that you would never go to except if you were on a trip like this, where you just kind of stop wherever you get tired or wherever there's a place to stay. And so it's just a lovely place to be, and one of those kind of enriching experiences that this trip is filled with.